I stood in the doorway of my grandmother's house, staring at the suitcases lined up in the entryway like soldiers ready for deployment. My suitcases, packed by someone else's hands. The smell of lavender sachets my grandmother had loved still lingered in the air, but now it mixed with something bitter. Betrayal has a smell, I realized. It smells like the cologne your husband wears when he's trying to impress someone who isn't you. Simone, we need to talk. Preston's voice came from behind me, and I could hear that careful tone he used when he'd rehearsed something. He was a financial analyst. He rehearsed everything. I turned slowly, my red blouse suddenly feeling too bright against the dimming reality of my life. Preston stood there in his work clothes, navy suit perfectly pressed, his dark brown skin glowing from what I used to think was happiness but now recognized as guilt. Or maybe that was just the new moisturizer I'd noticed in the bathroom. The expensive kind. The kind I didn't buy. What is this? I asked, gesturing to the luggage. My voice sounded calm, which surprised me. Inside, everything was screaming. It's time, he said, not meeting my eyes. Time you moved out. The words hung in the air like smoke. Time I moved out. Of my own grandmother's house. The house where I'd spent every summer as a child. The house Grandma Rose had left to me, only me in her will 5 years ago. The house I'd lived in for 8 years, 3 of them married to the man now telling me to leave. Time I moved out, I repeated, testing the words. They didn't make sense. Of my house. Preston shifted his weight. Our house, Simone. We're married. The deed says otherwise. I kept my voice level. Grandma left this house to me before we got married. Your name isn't on any paperwork. His jaw tightened. That was the look he got when his spreadsheets didn't balance. We've been living here together for 3 years. Common law gives me rights. We're in a state that doesn't recognize common law marriage, Preston. You know this. You helped me with the property taxes last year. You saw the documents. He looked away, focusing on the family photos still hanging on the wall. Photos I'd need to take down soon, I realized. Photos that lied about happiness. Brittany's moving in, he said finally. The truth served cold. The name landed like a slap. Brittany. His coworker. The one he'd mentioned casually over dinner for the past 6 months. Brittany got a promotion. Brittany thinks I should ask for a raise. Brittany made the funniest joke today. Brittany. Your mistress, I said flatly. You're telling me to move out so your mistress can move in. Don't call her that. Preston's voice rose slightly. We're in love. Real love. Not this. He waved his hand around. Arrangement we have. Arrangement. He called our marriage an arrangement. I walked past him into the kitchen, my heels clicking on the hardwood floors Grandma Rose had insisted on refinishing before she died. She'd wanted everything perfect for me. A woman needs a foundation, she told me, her weathered hands patting mine. A place that's truly hers. Preston followed me. Simone, be reasonable. You can find an apartment. Your salary is good. I'll even help with the first month's rent. I turned to face him, leaning against the counter. The afternoon light streamed through the window, illuminating the dust particles floating between us. Everything felt surreal. You'll help with my rent, I said slowly, while you live in my house with your mistress. Our house, he corrected again. No. I shook my head. This is my house. Legally, financially, morally. Mine. Preston's expression hardened. Then I'll sue. My lawyer says I have a case for contributing to the household. I've paid utilities. I've done repairs. That counts for something. I looked at this man I'd married, this man I'd loved, this man I'd trusted with my grandmother's legacy. He wore a green tie today, the one I'd bought him for his birthday. The one he'd said was his favorite. When did this happen? I asked quietly. When did you stop seeing me? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Simone, this isn't personal. It's extremely personal, Preston. You're asking me to leave my home so you can move another woman into it. You're making this harder than it needs to be. He checked his watch, an expensive piece I'd noticed recently. Another thing I didn't buy. Brittany's expecting me for dinner. Then go, I said. Have dinner with Brittany. He studied my face, perhaps looking for tears or anger or some reaction he could use to justify his choices. I gave him nothing. Years of corporate meetings had taught me the power of a neutral expression. I'll be back tomorrow, he said. I expect you to be gone by the weekend. He left. The door closed with a soft click. I heard his car start, heard the engine fade into the distance. Then the silence came, heavy and complete. I walked through each room of the house, touching the walls, remembering. The living room where Grandma used to tell stories. The dining room where we'd had Sunday dinners. The bedroom where I'd cried into my pillow after Grandma's funeral, where Preston had held me and promised we'd fill this house with good memories. More lies, apparently. In my grandmother's old study, I found the metal box she'd left me. Inside were all the important documents. The deed to the house, clear and simple. Simone Michelle Carter, sole owner. Not Preston. Not jointly owned. Just me. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found Rochelle's number. Rochelle had been my best friend since college, and she'd gone on to become a real estate attorney. We'd drifted apart over the past few years. Preston hadn't liked her much. Said she was too opinionated, too aggressive. I'd let the friendship fade rather than argue about it. That was ending tonight. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. Simone? Girl, I was just thinking about you. Rochelle, I said, my voice finally cracking. I need your help. What's wrong? Her tone shifted immediately to alert. Preston wants me to move out of my house so he can move his mistress in. Silence. Then, say that again. Slowly. I told her everything. The packed suitcases. The demands. Brittany. The threats of a lawsuit. Rochelle listened without interrupting, and I could hear her typing in the background. Is your name the only one on the deed? She asked when I finished. Yes, just mine. I inherited it before we married. Did he contribute to mortgage payments? There is no mortgage. Grandma owned it outright. More typing. Did he pay for any major renovations? New roof, foundation work, anything structural? No. He paid utilities sometimes and bought groceries. Normal household stuff. And you've been paying property taxes? Yes. From my account. Rochelle laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. It was the laugh of a lawyer who just realized her client held all the cards. Simone, he has no claim to that house. None. Zero. The fact that he thinks he does tells me he's either incredibly stupid or incredibly arrogant. Can I really make him leave? I asked. Baby, that house is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You can change the locks tomorrow if you want. He has no legal right to be there. I sat down in Grandma's old chair, the leather soft and familiar. He said he'd sue. Let him try. He'll spend thousands on legal fees just to be told what I'm telling you now. That house is your separate property. In this state, inherited property stays separate unless you actively put his name on the deed or used marital funds for significant improvements. Did you do either of those things? No. Then he can sue all he wants. He'll lose. I closed my eyes, processing this information. Preston had gambled on me not knowing my rights. He counted on me being too hurt or too confused to fight back. Rochelle, I said slowly, an idea forming. What if I don't want him in my house at all anymore? What if I want to sell it? Then you sell it. It's yours. Can I sell it without telling him? Pause. Legally? Yes. Ethically? Also yes, in my opinion. Practically? That's trickier but not impossible. How fast do you want to move on this? I thought about Preston with Brittany. I thought about him expecting to come home tomorrow to a house he'd claimed as his own. I thought about him dismissing my grandmother's legacy as if it meant nothing. As fast as possible, I said. Then let's talk tomorrow morning. Come to my office at 9. Bring every document related to that house. We're going to make sure you're protected. Thank you, Rochelle. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when we're done. After we hung up, I sat in the dark study for a long time. The house settled around me, old wood creaking, pipes humming. This place held so many memories. But maybe it was time to let it go. Maybe holding on to the physical space meant being tied to Preston, to his betrayal, to this pain. Or maybe, just maybe, selling the house was the perfect revenge. I stood up, straightened my red blouse, and began making a list. Documents to gather. People to call. Plans to make. Preston wanted me gone by the weekend. That gave me exactly 4 days to change both of our lives forever. He just didn't know it yet. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of Rochelle's office, casting stripes of light across her mahogany desk. I'd arrived 15 minutes early, clutching a folder stuffed with every document I could find. The deed, property tax records, insurance papers, utility bills. My proof. Rochelle looked different than I remembered. Her hair was cut short now, professional and sharp. She wore a brilliant blue suit that made her dark skin glow with confidence. She'd always had that presence, that certainty about her place in the world. I'd forgotten what that looked like up close. Simone. She stood and came around the desk to hug me. It's been too long. I know. I'm sorry. Don't apologize. Just tell me everything. She gestured to the chair across from her desk. Start from the beginning. When did you first notice something was wrong? I settled into the leather chair and tried to organize my thoughts. Looking back, maybe 6 months ago. He started working late more often. Coming home smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. The usual signs, I guess. Rochelle pulled out a legal pad and began taking notes. Did you confront him? I asked once. He said it was a new secretary's perfume, that she hugged everyone. I believed him. I felt stupid saying it out loud. I wanted to believe him. That's not stupid. That's human. Rochelle's pen moved quickly across the paper. When did he explicitly mention this woman, Brittany? About 4 months ago. He started talking about her casually. Work stories mostly. I thought they were just colleagues. Friends maybe. I opened my folder and spread the documents on her desk. Here's everything about the house. Rochelle picked up the deed first, scanning it with practiced eyes. Simone Michelle Carter, unmarried, sole owner. Transferred from Rose Elizabeth Carter, deceased. Date of transfer was... She paused, calculating, 3 years before you married Preston. This is airtight. He thinks he has rights to it. Based on what legal theory? Rochelle pulled up something on her computer. Did he tell you specifically why he thinks he can claim ownership? He said common law marriage. Rochelle snorted. This state abolished common law marriage in 1939. If he's relying on that, his lawyer is either incompetent or fictional. He said he's contributed to the household. Contributing to household expenses doesn't create ownership. Let me be very clear about this, Simone. Rochelle leaned forward, her expression intense. That house is your separate property. Under state law, property owned before marriage or inherited during marriage remains separate unless you take specific actions to commingle it. Did Preston ever pay property taxes from his own account? No. I always handled that. Did he pay for any major home improvements? Roof replacement, new HVAC, foundation work, additions. We replaced the dishwasher last year. He paid for half of that. Rochelle wrote something down. A dishwasher is an appliance, not a structural improvement. Even if he'd paid for the whole thing, it wouldn't give him ownership interest. What about the mortgage? There isn't one. Grandma paid off the house years ago. Even better. So he has no basis for claiming contribution to mortgage principal. Rochelle scrolled through something on her screen. I'm looking at recent case law just to be thorough, but honestly this is straightforward. He's bluffing. I felt something loosen in my chest. So I can make him leave. You can. But let's talk about what that looks like. Rochelle pulled up a new document. You have a few options. Option 1 is formal eviction. You give him written notice to vacate, usually 30 days, and if he doesn't leave, you file with the court. 30 days is too long. I figured you'd say that. Option 2 is changing the locks while he's not there. Legally, since he's not on the deed and you're not required to provide him housing, you can do this. He'll likely call the police, but they'll tell him it's a civil matter once they see you're the sole owner. I imagine Preston calling the police. Imagine the scene. What's option 3? Rochelle's smile was sharp. Option 3 is my favorite. You sell the house. Can I really do that? Just sell it without his input? Simone, you can sell it, rent it, paint it purple, or turn it into a cat sanctuary. It's your house. The only signature needed on the sale documents is yours. I looked down at the deed in my hands, at Grandma Rose's name passing the property to me. She'd worked 3 jobs to buy this house in the 60s, back when banks didn't want to give mortgages to single black women. She'd fought for every square foot of it. How fast could I sell it? I asked. Rochelle pulled out her phone. I have a friend who's a real estate agent. Very good at what she does. She specializes in quick sales. With the right price and a decent market, you could potentially close in 2 weeks. Maybe less if you find a cash buyer. Preston said he'd be back tomorrow to make sure I'm packing. Then let's call Naomi right now. Rochelle dialed without waiting for my response. She'd always been like this, decisive and immediate. I missed that. The phone rang twice before a cheerful voice answered. Rochelle, please tell me you're calling about that property we discussed. Different property but just as interesting. Can you come by my office in an hour? I have a client who needs to move quickly on a sale. I'm 15 minutes away. See you soon. After Rochelle hung up, she studied me carefully. Are you sure about this? Selling your grandmother's house is a big decision. You don't have to do this just to spite Preston. I'm not doing it to spite him, I said, surprised to realize it was true. I'm doing it because staying there would mean looking at every room and remembering what he did. What he said. I can't live like that. Fair enough. But you'll need somewhere to go. I'll figure something out. A hotel temporarily, then an apartment. Rochelle shook her head. No hotel. You'll stay with me until you find a place. I have a guest room that never gets used. I can't impose. You're not imposing. You're accepting help from someone who should have been there for you all along. She met my eyes. I let you go too easily when Preston started pulling away. I knew something was off about him, but I didn't push. I'm not making that mistake again. Before I could respond, her assistant knocked and entered. Naomi Richards is here. Naomi swept into the office like a force of nature. She wore a maroon dress that somehow made her look both professional and approachable. Her dark hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail, and she carried a tablet instead of a briefcase. Rochelle, always a pleasure. She turned to me, extending her hand. And you must be the client. I'm Naomi Richards. Simone Carter. We shook hands and Naomi immediately pulled up a chair next to me. Tell me about the property. I described the house. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, hardwood floors throughout, updated kitchen, large backyard. The neighborhood had become more desirable in recent years with young families moving in. Naomi typed notes into her tablet as I spoke. And you're looking to sell quickly. Any particular reason? Divorce, Rochelle said simply. Ah, got it. Is your ex going to contest the sale? He's not actually my ex yet, I admitted. And he's not on the deed. Naomi's eyebrows rose. So we're talking about selling before he knows what's happening. Exactly. She grinned. I love my job. Okay, here's what I need from you. Keys to the property so I can do a walkthrough today. Any recent appraisals or inspections you have. And you need to decide on your minimum acceptable price. With a quick sale, you might need to price slightly below market to attract immediate offers. How much below market? Maybe 5 to 10%. But in exchange, you could close in 7 to 10 days with a cash buyer. She pulled up something on her tablet. I have 3 investors who specifically look for quick closes. They buy houses as is, no inspection contingencies, cash only. They're not trying to steal properties, they just move fast and expect a small discount for it. I thought about Preston coming home to find the house sold out from under him. The look on his face. The realization that he'd underestimated me completely. Let's do it, I said. Naomi stood. Then let's go look at this house. Rochelle, you coming? Absolutely. I want to see what we're working with. We took Naomi's car, a sleek sedan that smelled like new leather and ambition. During the drive, Naomi asked practical questions about the house's condition, recent repairs, neighborhood amenities. She was all business, which I appreciated. When we pulled up to the house, I felt a strange sense of detachment. This had been my home for 8 years, but Preston had poisoned it. Grandma Rose would understand, I thought. She'd always been practical. She'd chosen survival over sentimentality every time. Inside, Naomi moved through each room with practiced efficiency, taking photos and measurements. Beautiful hardwood, she murmured. Original built-ins in the dining room. Good bones. Rochelle stood with me in the kitchen while Naomi worked. How are you feeling? Numb mostly. Is that normal? Completely normal. You're in decision-making mode. The feelings will come later. She squeezed my shoulder. But you're making the right choice. Preston doesn't get to have this house and his mistress. He told her it was his house, I said, suddenly remembering. Last night he said Brittany was moving in. He must have told her he owned it. Rochelle's expression turned calculating. So not only is he cheating, he's been lying to his mistress about his assets. That's going to be an interesting conversation when she finds out. Naomi rejoined us, scrolling through the photos on her tablet. Okay, I've seen enough. Based on the condition and location, I think we can list this for market value, actually. The house is in great shape. I'm going to reach out to my investor contacts right now and see if any of them want to make an offer sight unseen based on these photos. Sight unseen. I repeated. These investors trust my assessment. If I tell them a property is solid, they believe me. That's how I keep their business. She was already typing on her phone. Give me 30 minutes. We waited in the living room, Rochelle and I sitting on the couch while Naomi paced and made calls. I watched her work, watched her negotiate and charm and push. She reminded me of who I used to be before Preston. Confident. Direct. Someone who didn't apologize for taking up space. Okay. Naomi turned to face us, her expression triumphant. I have an offer. Cash as is, 7-day close. It's 3% below what I think market value is, but you'd avoid realtor commissions and the usual back and forth. Are you interested? How much? I asked. She named a figure that made me blink. Even 3% below market was substantially more than I'd expected. That's above what the county assessor has it valued at, I said. County assessor values are typically conservative. This is what houses in this neighborhood are actually selling for. Naomi pulled up comps on her tablet. See? This house 2 streets over went for even more last month. I looked at the numbers, the photos, the facts. Preston had been living in a house worth far more than he'd probably realized. No wonder he wanted to keep it. I'll take the offer, I said. Naomi grinned. Excellent. I'll draw up the paperwork today. You'll need to sign the listing agreement and the purchase contract. We can probably close by the end of next week. Where's Preston now? Rochelle asked me. At work. He usually stays until 6. Then you have time to pack what you want to keep. I'll help you. Rochelle stood, already moving toward the stairs. Naomi, can you email those documents to my office? Already done. The 3 of us spent the next 4 hours packing my life into boxes. My clothes, my books, my photographs. I left Preston's things exactly where they were. Let him deal with them himself. By the time we finished, my car and Rochelle's car were both packed full. The house looked strange, half empty but still furnished. Like a stage set after the actors had left. You should leave him a note, Naomi suggested. Just so he knows you're safe. It'll help legally if he tries to claim abandonment or something. I found a piece of paper and wrote quickly. Preston, I've decided to take your advice about moving out. The house is being sold. You have until next Friday to remove your belongings. After that, anything left becomes the new owner's property. Don't contact me. I left the note on the kitchen counter, weighted down by his favorite coffee mug. The green one I'd bought him. Let him read that and wonder. As we drove away, I watched the house disappear in the rearview mirror. Somewhere inside me, something that had been holding tight finally let go. Living with Rochelle felt like stepping back in time. Her apartment was modern and spacious, all clean lines and natural light. She'd made space for me in her guest room without making me feel like a burden. That first night, she ordered takeout and we sat on her balcony, not talking about Preston or the house or anything heavy. We just ate pad thai and remembered being young. Remember when we thought getting a B on that economics final was the worst thing that could happen to us? Rochelle laughed, spearing a piece of chicken. I cried for 2 hours, I admitted. Actual tears over AB. And now you're here, selling your house out from under your cheating husband without him knowing. Life comes at you fast. I smiled despite everything. Is this terrible? What I'm doing. Is what terrible? Exercising your legal right to sell your own property? Rochelle set down her fork and looked at me seriously. Simone, he told you to get out. He's planning to move another woman into your grandmother's house. Your house. There's nothing terrible about protecting yourself. My phone buzzed. Preston's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. How many times has he called today? Rochelle asked. 12. He's worried because I took all my clothes. Are you going to answer? Eventually. I need to seem normal enough that he doesn't suspect anything. I picked at my noodles. Naomi said the buyer wants to do the walkthrough tomorrow. As long as nothing major is wrong, we'll be on track for closing next Friday. What's your plan for when Preston finds out? Be somewhere he can't find me. Probably here if that's okay. More than okay. You can stay as long as you need. Rochelle's phone chimed. She glanced at it and frowned. Speaking of your situation, I ran a background check on Brittany today. I sat up straighter. You did. Professional curiosity. Plus, I wanted to know who we're dealing with. Rochelle pulled up something on her phone. Brittany Nicole Sanders, age 28, works in Preston's department as a financial coordinator. No criminal record, solid credit score. But here's what's interesting. She posted on social media 3 weeks ago about viewing a house in your neighborhood. She was already looking at houses? Screenshots. Rochelle turned her phone toward me. The photo showed Brittany, a petite woman with long straight hair and a wide smile, standing in front of a for sale sign. The caption read, "House hunting with my love. Can't wait to start our next chapter together." My stomach twisted. She thinks they're buying a house together. Preston's been lying to both of you. You about Brittany, and Brittany about his actual situation. Rochelle saved the screenshots. I'm documenting everything, by the way. You never know when you might need proof of his infidelity. We don't have a prenup. The divorce will be straightforward. Still, documentation never hurts. I finally called Preston back after we finished eating. He answered on the first ring. Simone, where are you? I came home and half your stuff is gone. I kept my voice steady. You told me to move out. I'm moving out. I didn't mean today. I meant by the weekend. We need to talk about this rationally. There's nothing to talk about, Preston. You made your choice when you chose Brittany. That's not fair. You're twisting things. I almost laughed. I'm twisting things? You told me to leave my own house so you could move your mistress in. Don't call her that. His voice rose. Simone, come home. We can work this out. I am home. Just not at that address anymore. I looked at Rochelle, who gave me an encouraging nod. I'll come by this weekend to get the rest of my things. Where are you staying? That's not your concern. Of course it's my concern. You're my wife. Then maybe you should have thought about that before planning a future with someone else. I ended the call before he could respond. My hands shook slightly as I set the phone down. Rochelle reached over and squeezed my wrist. You did great. Calm, clear, not giving him any information he could use. He's going to figure out something's wrong. Maybe. But by the time he does, it'll be too late. The next morning I went to work like normal. I was a marketing director for a mid-sized pharmaceutical company, a job I'd held for 6 years. I'd always been good at compartmentalizing, and today that skill proved invaluable. Simone, you okay? My assistant Teresa asked when I arrived. You look tired. Just some stuff at home. Nothing major. I hung my blue jacket on the back of my chair and opened my laptop. What's on the schedule today? Creative review at 10, budget meeting at 2, and I moved your strategy session to tomorrow because Jordan called in sick. Perfect. Thanks, Teresa. I threw myself into work, grateful for the distraction. During my lunch break, Naomi called with an update. The walkthrough went great. No issues found. The buyer is thrilled. We're set for closing next Friday at 2 p.m. That fast. Cash buyers move quickly. No mortgage approval needed, no bank delays. Just signatures and a wire transfer. I could hear the smile in her voice. How are you holding up? One day at a time. Smart. Listen, you'll need to be present at closing. Can you take off work that afternoon? I'll figure it out. After we hung up, I stared at my computer screen without really seeing it. Next Friday. In 1 week, the house would belong to someone else. Preston would come home to locks he couldn't open and a life he couldn't control. That evening, I returned to Rochelle's apartment to find her cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the space. You cook? I asked, surprised. I've learned a few things over the years. Living alone forces you to either learn or survive on takeout. She stirred something on the stove. How was work? Surprisingly normal. Nobody suspects I'm in the middle of a life implosion. That's because you're strong. You always have been. Rochelle plated the pasta and brought it to the small dining table. You need to keep your strength up. Over dinner we made a plan for the coming week. I'd continue going to work normally. I'd respond to Preston's calls and texts just enough to seem like someone going through a rough patch, not someone executing a strategic exit. I'd gather the last few items I wanted from the house on the weekend, making sure to go when Preston wasn't there. What about after the sale? Rochelle asked. Have you thought about what comes next? Find an apartment. File for divorce. Build a new life. I said it like a checklist, simple and clean. And dealing with Preston when he realizes what happened? That's what lawyers are for. Rochelle laughed. Fair point. I'll send him the divorce papers right after you close on the house. He can't dispute the sale since it happened before the divorce filing, and you're selling your separate property. It's all legal. Will he try to claim I'm hiding assets? The house is documented. You're selling it at market value and putting the proceeds in your own account. There's no hiding involved. He has no claim to your inheritance. Rochelle topped off my water glass. But he'll definitely be angry. Let him be angry. He was fine with me being hurt. Saturday came and I drove to the house mid-morning when I knew Preston would be at the gym. He was religious about his Saturday workout routine. 2 hours every week without fail. The house felt different now that I knew I was selling it. Less like a home and more like a container for memories I needed to sort through. I moved quickly, gathering photographs, my grandmother's jewelry box, a few pieces of furniture that had been hers. The mahogany side table. The antique lamp. The quilt she'd made by hand. I was loading the last box into my car when a neighbor, Mrs. Chin from 3 houses down, walked by with her dog. Simone, dear, is everything all right? I saw the moving truck earlier this week. I plastered on a smile. Just doing some redecorating, Mrs. Chin. Nothing to worry about. And Preston? I haven't seen him around much lately. He's been busy with work. She studied me with knowing eyes. Mrs. Chen had lived on this street for 40 years. She'd probably seen every kind of domestic drama imaginable. If you need anything, you know where I am. Thank you. That's very kind. As I drove away, I wondered how long it would take for the neighborhood to learn what happened. Small communities talked. Soon everyone would know that Preston had tried to kick out his wife, only to lose the house entirely. The thought should have embarrassed me, but instead I felt oddly satisfied. Preston called that night while I was at Rochelle's, watching a movie neither of us was really paying attention to. I stopped by the house today, he said. Saw you took more stuff. I'm entitled to my belongings. When are you coming back? I'm not coming back, Preston. I told you that. You're being childish. This is a marriage. You don't just walk away. I bit back the obvious response that he'd been planning to do exactly that. I'm not interested in staying where I'm not wanted. I never said I didn't want you. You told me to move out so you could move Brittany in. That's pretty clear communication. He sighed heavily. I was angry. I didn't mean it literally. Yes, you did. You meant every word. I kept my voice level. This is for the best, Preston. We've been over for a while. We just didn't admit it. Simone, please. Can we meet somewhere? Talk face to face. There's nothing left to talk about. What about the house? We need to discuss what happens with it. My heart rate picked up, but I kept my tone casual. What about it? If we're really splitting up, we need to decide what to do with the property. Sell it, divide the proceeds. The house is mine, Preston. Inherited property. You have no claim to it. That's not how I see it. That's how the law sees it. But we can discuss it during the divorce proceedings. I let that word hang in the air. Divorce. Silence on his end. Then, you're really doing this? Yes. Fine. Be stubborn. But you can't hide forever. After we hung up, Rochelle looked at me with concern. He's getting suspicious. I know. But it's only a few more days. I just need to keep him at arm's length until Friday. The week crept by with agonizing slowness. I went to work. I avoided Preston's calls more often than I answered them. I had dinner with Rochelle every night, and slowly I started to remember who I was before Preston. The version of me who laughed easily and made decisions without second-guessing everything. Wednesday night, Naomi called with final details. Closing is confirmed for Friday at 2 p.m. You'll need to bring photo ID and be prepared to sign about 40 pages of documents. The title company will handle everything else. And Preston? Has no idea, right? Right. Then Friday is going to be very interesting for him. Thursday evening, Preston showed up at my office building. I was leaving work when I saw him leaning against his car in the parking lot. My stomach dropped. We need to talk, he said as I approached. I'm busy, Preston. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I glanced around the parking lot. Other people were leaving, heading to their cars. Safe enough. Fine. 5 minutes. He looked tired, I noticed. Dark circles under his eyes. His usually perfect appearance slightly rumpled. I made a mistake, he started. With Brittany, with everything. I was confused. Going through something. And now you're not confused? Now I realize what I have. Had. He reached for my hand, but I stepped back. Simone, I love you. I want to make this work. Where's Brittany in this scenario? That's over. I ended it. I almost believed him. Almost. Preston, even if that's true, I don't want to be with you anymore. You showed me who you are. I can't unsee that. People make mistakes. People also have to live with consequences. I pulled out my car keys. I need to go. Just think about it. Please. Think about everything we've built together. I drove away without answering, my hands tight on the steering wheel. When I called Rochelle from the car, she was furious. He showed up at your work? That's borderline stalking. He wants to reconcile. Says he ended things with Brittany. And you believe that? No. But he was convincing. Simone, tomorrow at 2 p.m. that house closes. Don't let him manipulate you now. You're so close. That night I barely slept. I kept thinking about Preston's face, his words, his apparent regret. What if he was sincere? What if I was throwing away a marriage that could be saved? But then I remembered his voice when he told me to move out. The casual cruelty of it. The assumption that I would simply comply. And I knew I was doing the right thing. Friday morning dawned clear and bright. I wore a green dress to work, something cheerful and confident. Teresa commented on how good I looked. Thanks. I have an appointment this afternoon, so I'll be leaving around 1. Everything okay? Everything's going to be perfect. At 1:30, I left the office and drove to the title company. Naomi was already there, along with Rochelle, who'd insisted on coming as moral support. Ready to do this? Naomi asked. I looked at both of them, these women who barely knew me but had shown up anyway, who had my back when I needed it most. Ready, I said. We walked into the closing room together, and I signed my name on document after document. Each signature felt like freedom. The closing room was smaller than I expected. Just a conference table, several chairs, and a woman named Patricia who introduced herself as the closing agent. She had gray hair pulled back in a neat bun and the efficient manner of someone who'd done this hundreds of times. Mrs. Carter, thank you for being prompt. We should be finished within the hour. Patricia spread documents across the table in organized stacks. I'll walk you through each section as we go. Naomi sat on my right, Rochelle on my left. Both of them had their phones and notepads ready, looking professional and alert. Having them there made this feel real and protected at the same time. Before we begin, Patricia said, checking her computer screen, I need to confirm that all parties are present. You're the sole owner on the deed, correct? No spouse or co-owner signatures needed. Correct. The property was inherited prior to my marriage. My name is the only one on the deed. Patricia nodded and made a note. Perfect. And the buyers, Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson, are running a few minutes late but confirmed they're on their way. We can start reviewing your documents while we wait. She pushed the first stack toward me. This is your settlement statement. It shows the sale price, closing costs, and your net proceeds. Take your time reviewing the numbers. I scanned the document. The sale price looked right. The closing costs were higher than I expected but still reasonable. After everything was deducted, I'd walk away with enough money to put a substantial down payment on a new place and have a comfortable cushion in savings. The buyer is purchasing with cash, Patricia explained, which simplified things considerably. No mortgage contingency, no lender requirements. The funds have already been wired to our escrow account. As soon as you sign and we record the deed, the money transfers to your account. How soon? I asked. By end of business today. Monday morning at the latest. Rochelle leaned over to examine the statement. Everything looks correct from a legal standpoint. The title is clear, no liens or encumbrances listed. Patricia pulled out another document. This is the deed of transfer. By signing this, you're conveying all ownership rights to the buyers. Once I record this with the county, the property officially belongs to them. I stared at the paper. My grandmother's house. The place where I'd learned to bake cookies, where I'd studied for college exams, where I'd brought Preston home for the first time and introduced him to Grandma Rose just months before she died. Are you okay? Naomi asked quietly. Yes. Just thinking. Second thoughts. I thought about Preston showing up at my office yesterday. I thought about Brittany's social media post, excited about starting her next chapter. I thought about being told to move out of my own home. No second thoughts, I said and signed the deed. The door opened and a couple walked in. The Jeffersons, I assumed. They looked to be in their early 40s, both dressed casually but neatly. The woman wore a bright red cardigan and smiled warmly at everyone. Sorry we're late, she said. Traffic was worse than expected. No problem at all. Please have a seat. Patricia gestured to the chairs across from me. Mr. and Mrs. Jefferson, this is Mrs. Carter, the seller. We exchanged polite greetings. Mrs. Jefferson seemed genuinely excited. We're so thrilled about the house. The bones are incredible and that backyard is perfect for our kids. You have children? I asked. 3. Ages 6, 8, and 10. They're with my mom right now, probably driving her crazy with excitement. She laughed. We've been looking for months. When our agent showed us the photos of your place, we knew it was the one. Something in my chest eased. The house would have children in it again. Laughter and noise and life. Grandma Rose would have liked that. I'm glad it's going to a family, I said and meant it. We proceeded through the paperwork. Patricia explained each document before anyone signed. The Jeffersons asked questions about the appliances, the roof age, the utility companies. Normal homebuyer questions. They had no idea about the circumstances behind the sale, and I wanted to keep it that way. Mrs. Carter, do you have the house keys? Patricia asked. I pulled them from my purse. The set I'd carried for 8 years. I'd removed my personal keys the night before, leaving just the house keys on the ring. All 3 locks, I confirmed, handing them over. Front door, back door, and side garage entrance. Mrs. Jefferson accepted them with a smile. Thank you. Would you mind if I asked what made you decide to sell? The room went quiet. Rochelle's hand found mine under the table, a quick squeeze of support. Life circumstances changed, I said simply. It was time for something new. She nodded, accepting the vague answer without pushing. Well, we'll take good care of it. I promise you that. I know you will. We spent the next 40 minutes signing document after document. My hand cramped by the end. Patricia organized everything into folders, made copies, and finally sat back with a satisfied expression. That's everything. I'll take these to the county recorder's office this afternoon. Congratulations to both parties. She shook hands with everyone. Mrs. Carter, you should see the funds in your account by close of business today. What about possession? Mr. Jefferson asked. When can we move in? Patricia checked her notes. The property should be vacant, correct, Mrs. Carter? Yes. All my personal belongings have been removed. That was technically true. Everything I wanted was already gone. What remained was Preston's problem. Then you can take possession immediately. The locks are yours now. The Jeffersons practically glowed with happiness. They thanked everyone multiple times before leaving, already making plans about which room would belong to which child. After they left, Patricia finished her administrative tasks and ushered us out. Mrs. Carter, you'll receive copies of all documents by email within 24 hours. If you have any questions, feel free to call. Outside the title company office, the three of us stood in the parking lot. The afternoon sun was bright, almost aggressive in its cheerfulness. I felt disconnected from everything, like I was watching my life happen to someone else. You did it, Rochelle said. It's done. How do you feel? Naomi asked. I don't know yet. I looked at my phone. 3 missed calls from Preston. I should probably call him back. Or you could wait until Monday, Rochelle suggested. Give yourself the weekend to process. He's going to find out eventually. Better if it comes from me. Naomi checked her watch. What time does he usually get home from work? Around 6. So you have about 3 hours before he discovers the locks have been changed. She grinned. I wish I could see his face. We agreed to meet back at Rochelle's apartment. I needed to make one stop first. At a storage unit facility near Rochelle's place, I'd rented a small unit 2 days ago. Everything I'd saved from the house was there, waiting for whatever came next. I drove there alone, needing some time with my thoughts. The facility was clean and well lit. My unit was on the 2nd floor. I opened the door and looked at the boxes and furniture stacked inside. My life, condensed into a 10 by 10 space. On top of one box was a photo album. I pulled it out and flipped through the pages. Pictures of Grandma Rose in her garden. Pictures of my childhood summers. Pictures of Preston and me on our wedding day, both of us smiling like we believed in forever. I closed the album and put it back. Some things you couldn't pack away or sell or leave behind. Some things you just had to learn to carry differently. My phone rang. Preston again. I answered this time. Simone, where are you? I've been calling all day. I had an appointment. I want to talk. Can you meet me at the house tonight? That's not a good idea. Please. I need to see you. There's something I want to show you. His voice held something I couldn't quite identify. Hope maybe. Or desperation. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. Preston, I need to tell you something. What is it? I took a breath. This was it. The moment everything became real and irreversible. I sold the house. Silence. Complete ringing silence. You what? I sold the house. It closed today. The new owners take possession immediately. You can't do that. You can't sell our house without telling me. It wasn't our house. It was my house. Inherited property, remember? Your name was never on the deed. His voice rose, sharp and angry. This is insane. You're being vindictive. I'm being practical. You told me to move out. I moved out. I also sold the property that was legally mine to sell. Where am I supposed to go? All my stuff is there. You have until the end of today to remove your belongings. After that, it belongs to the new owners. I kept my voice steady. I left instructions with them about what to do if anything remains. You can't do this. I'll sue you. I'll fight this. You can try, but you'll lose. Talk to a lawyer if you don't believe me. I paused. Actually, you'll be hearing from my lawyer soon. I'm filing for divorce. Simone, wait. Don't hang up. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choices. I made mine. Where are you staying? At least tell me that. Somewhere you can't find me. Goodbye, Preston. I ended the call and immediately blocked his number. Then I sat in my car in the storage facility parking lot and waited for something to happen. Tears maybe. or relief, or regret. Instead, I felt nothing. Just a strange, hollow calm. My phone buzzed. A text from Rochelle. "You okay?" I told him. I typed back. "He's probably on his way to the house now." Good. Let him see what consequences look like. I started my car and drove to Rochelle's apartment, taking the long way. When I arrived, she had wine already poured and dinner ordered. We sat on her balcony and didn't talk about Preston or the house or anything significant. We just existed in the space between one life and whatever came next. Around 7 p.m., my phone lit up with a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Then a voicemail notification appeared. Against my better judgment, I listened to it. Preston's voice came through, strained and disbelieving. "Simone, I'm at the house. The locks are different. There are people inside. A family. They say they own this place now. They showed me the deed with today's date on it. What did you do? How could you do this? Call me back. We need to fix this." I deleted the voicemail. Another call came through, different unknown number. Another voicemail. I didn't listen to this one. "He's using different phones to call you," Rochelle observed. "That's harassment. It's panic." His whole world just fell apart. "He was ready to do the same thing to you." "I know. That's why I don't feel bad." And I didn't. That was perhaps the most surprising part. I'd expected guilt or sadness or something. Instead, I felt like I'd finally taken control of my own story. That night, I slept better than I had in months. No nightmares, no anxiety. Just deep, dreamless sleep. Saturday morning, I woke to find my bank account had been updated. The proceeds from the house sale had transferred overnight. I stared at the number on my screen, larger than anything I'd ever had in savings before. This was freedom, I realized. Financial freedom, emotional freedom, freedom from Preston's expectations and manipulations. I could do anything I wanted now. Rochelle knocked on my door. "You awake? Come in." She entered carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "So, day 1 of your new life. How does it feel?" "Different," I said. "Good different." "Preston called my office 12 times yesterday evening." I didn't answer. "He's going to make this difficult." "Let him try. Everything you did was legal. The house was yours to sell. You can file for divorce whenever you want. He has no leverage." She handed me a coffee mug. "But we should probably get a restraining order if he keeps harassing you. Let's see how the next few days go." We spent Saturday doing normal things. Grocery shopping. Laundry. Rochelle had a book club meeting in the afternoon, so I stayed home and started researching apartments. I wanted something bright and modern. Something that didn't hold any memories of Preston. By evening, I'd scheduled 3 apartment viewings for Monday. All of them were in neighborhoods I'd always admired but Preston had dismissed as too expensive or too trendy or too something. Sunday morning, Rochelle went to church and invited me along. I hadn't been to church in years. Preston wasn't religious and I'd let that part of my life fade. But sitting in the pew, listening to the choir, I felt something shift inside me. Not a dramatic revelation. Just a quiet recognition that I'd lost more than my marriage. I'd lost parts of myself. After the service, an older woman approached me. She wore a purple dress and had kind eyes. "You're new here," she said. "I'm Sister Dorothy. Simone. I'm visiting with my friend Rochelle." "Ah, Rochelle. Such a good soul." Sister Dorothy studied me. "You have the look of someone starting over. Is it that obvious?" "I've seen that look 1,000 times. I had it myself once many years ago." She patted my hand. "Whatever you're leaving behind, leave it behind completely. Don't let anyone make you feel guilty for choosing yourself." I thought about that conversation all afternoon. Choosing yourself. When had I stopped doing that? When had Preston's wants become more important than my own? Monday morning, I returned to work. My colleagues asked about my week and I gave vague, pleasant answers. Everything was fine. Just dealing with some personal changes. Nothing dramatic. At lunch, Naomi called. "How are you holding up?" "Better than expected." "Good. Listen, I wanted to let you know that Preston called me on Saturday. Asked if there was any way to reverse the sale." "What did you tell him?" "That the sale was final and legal." He got pretty hostile, so I ended the call. "Just wanted you to be aware." After work, I viewed the first apartment. It was on the 8th floor of a modern building downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city. The kitchen was sleek and efficient. The bedroom was spacious and bright. "It's perfect," I told the leasing agent. "When would you like to move in?" "As soon as possible." I signed the lease that evening. Move-in date, next Friday. 1 week from today. Everything was moving fast, tumbling forward like a landslide I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. And I didn't want to stop it. For the first time in years, I felt like I was moving towards something instead of away from something. That made all the difference. The week passed in a blur of practical tasks. I filled out change of address forms, updated my banking information, and organized movers to take my belongings from storage to my new apartment. Each item checked off my list felt like progress, like building something new from the rubble of what had been. Rochelle helped me pick out furniture for the new place. We spent an entire Saturday afternoon at various stores, testing couches and debating color schemes. What about this one? She pointed to a deep blue sectional. It's comfortable and would look great with your view. It's perfect. I didn't hesitate. The old Simone would have worried about whether Preston would like it, whether it was too expensive, whether it matched some imaginary standard she'd created in her head. The new Simone just bought what she liked. We also ordered a dining table, bar stools for the kitchen island, and a bed frame that was nothing like the one Preston and I had shared. Everything was fresh and intentionally different. Thursday night, I packed the last of my personal items at Rochelle's place. She'd been the perfect host, never making me feel like an imposition. But I was ready to have my own space again. You know you can stay longer if you need to, Rochelle said, watching me fold clothes. I know. But I need to do this. Need to prove to myself I can. You've already proven that. Selling the house took more courage than most people have in their entire lives. I looked up at her. Thank you for everything. For believing me, for helping me, for giving me a place to stay. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out. That's who you are, Simone. A survivor. She sat on the edge of the guest bed. Have you heard from Preston lately? He stopped calling after I blocked him on everything. But my mom said he called her yesterday, asking if she knew where I was. What did she say? That I was safe and that he should respect my privacy. Mom's always been good at shutting down nonsense. I smiled. She wanted to fly here, but I told her I was handling it. Are you? Handling it? I thought about that. Yes. Some days are harder than others. But yes, I'm handling it. Friday morning arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, mild temperature, just enough breeze to keep things comfortable. The moving company arrived at the storage unit at 8 a.m. sharp. You Carter? The lead mover asked. He was a big man with a gray beard and kind eyes. That's me. All right then. We've got a four-man crew today. Should have you loaded and moved within 3 hours. Your new place is downtown, right? 8th floor, yes. Building have a service elevator? They do. I already confirmed with the building manager. Perfect. Let's get started. I watched as the movers loaded my life into their truck with practiced efficiency. Boxes of books, kitchen items I'd collected over the years, photo albums, grandma's furniture. Each item represented something saved from the wreckage of my marriage. By 10 a.m., the storage unit was empty. I signed off on the paperwork, returned the key to the facility office, and drove to my new apartment building. The building manager, a cheerful woman named Patricia who wore a maroon blazer, met me in the lobby. Mrs. Carter, welcome home. The movers can use the service elevator. It'll take them right to your floor. Thank you. And I wanted to let you know we run a tight ship here. Security is excellent. You need a key fob to access the elevators and the parking garage. No one gets up to the residential floors without authorization. Something in her tone suggested Rochelle had mentioned my situation. I appreciated the discretion. That's very reassuring. If you need anything, don't hesitate to call the front desk. We're here 24/7. The movers worked steadily throughout the morning, hauling boxes and furniture into my new place. I directed traffic, telling them where each piece should go. The apartment slowly transformed from an empty shell into something that looked lived in. By noon, everything was inside. I tipped the movers generously and closed the door behind them, finally alone in my new home. The silence was different here. Not heavy or oppressive like it had become in the house with Preston. This silence felt clean, full of possibility. I walked through each room, running my hands over the walls. The living room with its huge windows and city view. The kitchen with its granite countertops and stainless appliances. The bedroom that was just mine, no compromise required. In the bathroom, I unpacked toiletries and lined them up on the counter. New shampoo, new soap, new everything. I'd thrown away anything that reminded me of my old life. My phone buzzed. A text from Rochelle. How's the new place? I sent her a photo of the view. Perfect. Come over for dinner tonight. Celebration. I'll be there. I spent the afternoon unpacking. Each box revealed items I'd forgotten I owned. Books I'd bought but never read because Preston said they were frivolous. Paintings I'd wanted to hang but he'd vetoed as too modern. Kitchen gadgets I'd been excited about until he'd made fun of my enthusiasm. Now all of it had a place. The books went on the new bookshelf by the window. The paintings went up in the living room. The kitchen gadgets filled the drawers and cabinets. Around 4 p.m. my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw a deliverman holding a large bouquet of flowers. "Delivery for Simone Carter," he said when I opened the door. I signed for the bouquet and brought it inside, already knowing who they were from. The card confirmed it. "Simone, please call me. We need to talk. Preston." I threw the entire arrangement in the trash. Then I called the front desk. "Hi Patricia, this is Simone Carter in 814. I just received a flower delivery I didn't want. Can you please add a note that I'm not accepting any deliveries unless I've ordered them myself?" "Of course. I'll make a note in your file right away." "And Mrs. Carter? If anyone shows up asking for you, we'll call you first before giving out any information." "Thank you." After that, I continued unpacking with renewed focus. Preston could send whatever he wanted. He couldn't reach me here. This was my space, my sanctuary, my fresh start. By 6 p.m., most of the boxes were empty. I'd made real progress. The apartment was starting to feel like home. I showered, changed into clean clothes, and headed to Rochelle's place for dinner. She'd invited Naomi too, turning it into a proper celebration. To new beginnings, Rochelle toasted when we all had wine glasses in hand. And to women who don't take garbage from anyone. "I'll drink to that," Naomi said with a grin. We ate pasta and salad and talked about everything except Preston. Naomi shared stories about difficult clients. Rochelle complained about a judge who always ruled against her. I talked about my plans for decorating the apartment. Normal conversation. Normal friendship. It felt foreign and wonderful at the same time. "So what's next?" Naomi asked over dessert. "You've got the new place. What's the next step?" "Filing for divorce officially. Rochelle's handling that." "I'm drawing up the papers this weekend," Rochelle confirmed. "We'll file Monday morning. Simple no-fault divorce. Since you had separate property and no kids, it should be straightforward." "How long will it take?" "This state has a mandatory waiting period of 60 days after filing. So you could be officially divorced by early March." 2 months. 60 days. It seemed both impossibly long and remarkably short. "What about Preston?" Naomi asked. "Is he going to fight it?" "He can't really. Our assets were always separate. He can't claim the house because it's already sold and was never his property. We have no joint accounts, no shared debts. There's nothing to fight over. Except his pride," I added. "Well, he already lost that," Rochelle said. We laughed, and I realized this was the first time I genuinely laughed in weeks. Maybe months. Later that night, back in my apartment, I stood at the window and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Preston was adjusting to his new reality. Living with his parents, probably. Or maybe he'd moved in with Brittany after all, though somehow I doubted that relationship had survived the revelation that he wasn't the successful homeowner he'd claimed to be. I didn't waste much energy wondering. That chapter was closed. My phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. When the voicemail notification appeared, I deleted it without listening. Tomorrow was Saturday. I had plans to finish unpacking, maybe explore my new neighborhood, find a good coffee shop and a grocery store. Normal, domestic plans that would have bored me before. Now they felt like luxuries. I curled up on my new couch with a book I'd been wanting to read. The apartment was quiet except for the gentle hum of the heating system. Outside, the city moved and breathed and lived. And here in my 8th-floor sanctuary, so did I. Monday morning came with surprising calm. I woke up in my own bed, in my own apartment, and got ready for work without any drama. The routine felt different now. Everything felt different. At the office, Teresa greeted me with unusual enthusiasm. "Someone's glowing today. New haircut." "No, just new perspective." "Whatever it is, keep doing it. You look fantastic." I settled into my work, grateful for the distraction. The marketing campaign for a new medication needed revision, and I threw myself into the creative process. It felt good to focus on something I could control. Around 10 a.m. my desk phone rang. The receptionist sounded nervous. "Mrs. Carter, there's someone here to see you." "A Preston Carter?" "He says he's your husband." My stomach dropped. "I'm not available." "He's insisting it's urgent. Tell him I'm in a meeting and can't be disturbed. If he won't leave, call security." "Understood." I hung up and immediately texted Rochelle. Preston showed up at my office. Her response came within seconds. "Stay inside. Do not go to the parking lot alone. I'm calling building security now. 10 minutes later, Teresa knocked on my door. Security escorted someone out of the building. Are you okay? I'm fine. Thank you. But I wasn't fine. My hands shook slightly as I tried to type an email. Preston had crossed a line by coming to my workplace. This wasn't just phone calls anymore. This was escalation. At lunch, Rochelle called. I spoke with your building security. They've added Preston's photo to their watch list. If he shows up again, they'll call the police immediately. Good. Simone, I think we need to file for a restraining order. Isn't that extreme? He showed up at your work uninvited. He's been calling from different numbers. He sent flowers you explicitly didn't want. That's a pattern of harassment. Her voice was firm but caring. Better to be safe. Okay. File for it. I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow. The rest of the workday passed without incident. I left at my normal time, but I was hyper-aware of my surroundings. Every person in the parking garage seemed potentially threatening. Every car that slowed down near me sparked anxiety. I made it home safely. Patricia at the front desk gave me a subtle nod as I passed, confirming no one suspicious had tried to visit. In my apartment, I finally relaxed. The space was mine. Protected. Safe. I was making dinner when my doorbell rang. I checked the peephole and saw Preston standing in my hallway. My heart raced. How did he get up here? The elevator required a key fob. I didn't open the door. How did you get into the building? Followed someone in. Simone, please. Just talk to me. No. Leave before I call security. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You showed up at my work this morning. You're harassing me. I'm trying to save our marriage. I pulled out my phone and dialed the front desk. Patricia answered immediately. This is Simone Carter in 814. My ex-husband is outside my door. He's not authorized to be here. Security is on the way. Stay inside and keep your door locked. Preston heard the conversation. Simone, this is ridiculous. I'm your husband. We need to talk. We have nothing to talk about. And you're about to be arrested for trespassing. I want to explain. About Brittany, about everything. I made mistakes. Your mistakes aren't my problem anymore. I heard the elevator ding, then footsteps in the hall. 2 security guards appeared in my peephole view. Sir, you need to come with us, one of them said. This is my wife's apartment. I have a right to be here. Sir, this is private property. The resident has asked you to leave. You need to come with us now. There was some scuffling, raised voices. Then Preston's voice, sharp and angry. You're throwing away 6 years. 6 years, Simone. For what? Pride. I didn't respond. The sounds faded as security escorted him away. I sank onto my couch, shaking. The calm, controlled woman who'd sold the house felt very far away. Right now I was just scared and angry and tired. My phone rang. Patricia from the front desk. Mrs. Carter, we've removed him from the building. We also took his photo and added it to our ban list. If he tries to enter again, we'll call the police immediately. Thank you. For what it's worth, you handled that perfectly. Staying inside, calling us right away. Many people feel pressured to open the door. You didn't. After we hung up, I called Rochelle. He was here. At my apartment. What? How? Snuck in behind another resident. That's it. Tomorrow morning we're getting that restraining order. This stops now. That night I barely slept. Every sound in the building made me jump. I kept imagining Preston in the hallway, finding some way past security, forcing a conversation I didn't want to have. Tuesday morning, Rochelle picked me up at 7 a.m. We drove to the courthouse together, not saying much. Sometimes silence was better than trying to fill the space with words. The courthouse was busy, full of people dealing with their own legal problems. We took a number and waited our turn. When we were finally called, a clerk handed me a stack of forms. Fill these out completely. Be specific about incidents and include dates when possible. I wrote out everything. The demands to leave the house. The revelation about Brittany. His refusal to accept the sale. The harassment via phone calls. Showing up at my work. Appearing at my apartment. It looked worse written down. All those incidents compiled into a damning timeline. The judge reviewed my petition that afternoon. She was a stern-looking woman in her 60s who'd probably heard 1,000 similar stories. Mrs. Carter, I'm granting a temporary restraining order. This prohibits Preston Carter from contacting you in any way, coming within 500 feet of you, your home, or your workplace. The order is effective immediately and will remain in place until the full hearing in 2 weeks. Thank you, Your Honor. A sheriff's deputy will serve Mr. Carter with the order today. Once he's been served, any violation is a criminal offense. She looked at me over her glasses. I see you've also filed for divorce. Smart. Get yourself free of this situation. Rochelle and I left the courthouse feeling slightly more secure. The restraining order wouldn't stop Preston if he was truly determined, but it gave me legal protection I didn't have before. Where do you think he's staying? I asked as we drove back to my apartment. I ran his credit report yesterday with your permission. He's been staying at a hotel near his parents' house. Racked up quite a bill too. He always had terrible spending habits. The divorce papers are ready, by the way. I'll file them tomorrow. Are you hand-delivering them to Preston? Rochelle smiled. Even better. Sheriff's deputy will serve him along with the restraining order. He's going to have a very bad day. Part of me felt guilty, but a larger part felt relieved. This was all moving toward resolution. Soon Preston would be legally required to leave me alone. Soon our marriage would be officially over. Soon I could stop looking over my shoulder. That evening, Naomi called to check in. Rochelle told me what happened. Are you okay? Getting there. Listen, I was thinking. You need something fun in your life. Something that has nothing to do with Preston or divorce or legal drama. Are you free this weekend? I think so. Why? There's an art fair downtown on Saturday. Food trucks, live music, local artists selling their work. Want to go? I almost said no. The old Simone would have declined, worried about being out in public where Preston might see her. But the new Simone was tired of letting fear control her choices. Yes, I'd love to go. Perfect. I'll pick you up at 11. After we hung up, I looked around my apartment. It was coming together nicely. The furniture I'd bought fit perfectly. The paintings were hung. The kitchen was stocked. This was a home now and not just a space. I made myself dinner and ate at my new dining table looking out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, a deputy was serving Preston with legal papers that would change both our lives. He was probably angry. Definitely shocked. Maybe even hurt. But those weren't my emotions to manage anymore. I'd spent 6 years managing Preston's feelings, accommodating his moods, adjusting myself to make him comfortable. That era was over. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Restraining order? Really? You're being dramatic. I just want to talk. I took a screenshot and sent it to Rochelle. He's already violating the order. Her response was immediate. Forward that to the police. Right now. I called the non-emergency police line and reported the violation. They took my information and said they'd follow up with Preston about respecting the court order. After that, I blocked the new number and turned my phone on Do Not Disturb mode. Only calls from my favorites list would come through. Peace, quiet, safety. I spent the rest of the evening reading on my couch, occasionally looking up at the city view. Life was slowly returning to normal. A new normal, but normal nonetheless. Wednesday morning, Rochelle confirmed the divorce papers had been filed. Preston's been served. The court date is set for 60 days from now, assuming he doesn't contest. Will he contest? He'd be wasting his money. There's nothing to contest. But some people fight just to fight. That sounds like Preston. At work, security updated me that Preston had been officially banned from the building. His photo was circulated to all entrance guards. If he tried to enter, they'd call the police before even approaching him. These layers of protection should have felt excessive. Instead, they felt necessary. Thursday evening, I attended a yoga class near my apartment. I hadn't done yoga in years. Preston thought it was silly, a waste of time and money. Now I could do whatever I wanted. The instructor was a young woman with a calming voice. Set an intention for your practice today, she said as we began. Something you want to invite into your life or something you want to release. I closed my eyes and thought, freedom? That was my intention. Complete and total freedom from Preston, from the past, from fear. Friday afternoon, my divorce lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Catherine who Rochelle had recommended, called with an update. Mrs. Carter, Preston's lawyer, reached out. They want to negotiate. Negotiate what? We have no shared assets. Exactly what I said. But apparently Preston is claiming emotional distress from the house sale. Wants compensation. I laughed. Actually laughed. Emotional distress? He tried to kick me out of my own house so he could move his mistress in. I know. It's nonsense. I told his lawyer we have no intention of negotiating. Your property was sold legally. He has no claim. Catherine paused. But he could drag this out, file motions, make it expensive and time-consuming. What do you recommend? Call his bluff. Most bullies back down when you stand firm. And if he does want to fight, let him waste his money on legal fees for a case he can't win. Then that's what we'll do. Saturday arrived with perfect weather again. Naomi picked me up as promised and we drove to the art fair together. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "Honestly, better than I expected. Some days are hard but mostly I feel lighter. Like I've been carrying something heavy for years and finally put it down." "That's a good sign." The art fair was crowded and colorful. Artists had set up booths displaying paintings, sculptures, jewelry, photographs. Live musicians performed on a small stage. The smell of food trucks filled the air. We wandered through the booths, stopping whenever something caught our eye. I bought a painting of a city skyline at sunset, thinking it would be perfect for my living room. Naomi found handmade earrings she couldn't resist. "This is nice," I said, eating a taco from one of the food trucks. "Normal. Fun. You deserve normal and fun." We ran into some of Naomi's friends and ended up joining them for drinks at a nearby bar. They were funny and welcoming, asking me about my work in my new apartment but never prying into my personal situation. Around 6 p.m. as the sun started to set, Naomi drove me home. "Thanks for today," I said. "I needed it." "Anytime. We should make it a regular thing." In my apartment, I hung the new painting above the couch. It looked perfect there, adding life and color to the space. I made dinner and ate while watching the sunset through my windows. The city transformed in the fading light, buildings catching the sun's final rays and glowing gold and orange. My phone rang. "Rochelle. Good news? Preston's lawyer called. They're dropping the compensation claim. Apparently Preston can't afford a legal fight right now." "Shocking. The divorce should proceed without any hiccups. You'll be free in 60 days. 60 days, I repeated. It felt both close and far away. That night, I slept soundly for the first time all week. No nightmares, no anxiety. Just deep, peaceful sleep. Tomorrow was Sunday. I had no plans except to enjoy my day off, my apartment, my freedom. And that sounded absolutely perfect. Sunday morning, I woke to sunlight streaming through my bedroom windows. I'd forgotten to close the curtains the night before, too tired to bother. Now I was grateful. The light felt like a blessing, bright and clean and new. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen counter, scrolling through my phone. Social media was full of the usual weekend posts. Brunch photos, hiking adventures, family gatherings. Normal life happening all around me. My mother called while I was making breakfast. "Simone, honey, I wanted to check on you." "I'm good, Mom." "Really?" "Preston called me again yesterday. He's very upset about the divorce." "That's not my concern anymore." "I know, sweetie. I just wanted you to be prepared. He's telling people you've had a breakdown. That you're not thinking clearly." I gripped the phone tighter. "Of course he is. Can't accept that I made a choice, so he has to paint me as unstable. Your father and I support you completely. We never liked how he talked down to you, always making you second-guess yourself." She sighed. "We should have said something sooner." "It's okay, Mom. I'm figuring it out. Your father wants to fly down there. Make sure you're safe." "I'm safe. I have good friends here, a good lawyer and a restraining order. Preston can't get near me. Just promise you'll call if you need anything. Anything at all." "I promise." After we hung up, I thought about Preston's strategy. Painting me as irrational was classic manipulation. If people thought I was having a breakdown, they'd discount my version of events. They'd see his behavior as justified, trying to help his unstable wife. But I had documentation. Text messages, the restraining order, witness statements from my building security. The truth was recorded and undeniable. I spent the morning cleaning my apartment, organizing closets, making everything perfect. It was therapeutic, creating order in my physical space while my emotional life was still somewhat chaotic. Around noon, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Rochelle holding a bag of takeout food. "Figured you might not have gone grocery shopping yet," she said when I opened the door. "You're a mind reader." We ate Chinese food on my couch, the city spread out before us through the windows. "I heard from my court clerk friend," Rochelle said, spearing a piece of Kung Pao chicken. "Preston filed a response to the divorce petition." "Saying what?" "That he wants marriage counseling. That the dissolution of the marriage is premature." She rolled her eyes. "Standard stalling tactics. Will it work?" "Not in this state. No-fault divorce means if one party wants out, it's happening. But he can delay things by requesting mediation, filing motions, being generally difficult." "How long can he delay?" "A few months at most. The court doesn't have patience for obvious stalling." Rochelle set down her food. "The good news is, every delay costs him money and legal fees. Eventually he'll run out of funds or willpower. What about Brittany? Are they still together? Rochelle pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. Posted yesterday. It was Brittany's social media page. A photo of her with someone new, a man I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Finally found someone honest. New beginnings." So they're done, I said. Looks like it. Once she realized Preston had lied about owning the house, the relationship fell apart. Can't build a future on deception. I felt a small surge of satisfaction, then immediately felt guilty for it. I shouldn't be happy about their breakup. Why not? They got together through betrayal. It's fitting that betrayal ended them too. The rest of Sunday passed quietly. Rochelle left after lunch and I spent the afternoon reading. The book I'd started Friday night was a thriller about a woman escaping an abusive relationship. The parallels weren't lost on me, though my situation wasn't as dramatic. Still, there were similarities. The slow erosion of self-worth. The feeling of walking on eggshells. The relief of finally getting away. Monday at work, I dove into a new project. Our company was launching a medication for diabetes, and I was heading up the marketing campaign. It required all my focus, which was exactly what I needed. During my lunch break, I got a call from the police department. "Mrs. Carter, this is Officer Rodriguez. I'm calling about the restraining order violation from last week. Mr. Carter has been warned about contacting you. We've documented everything. If it happens again, he'll be arrested." "Thank you, officer. Also wanted to let you know we did a welfare check at his parents' house where he's staying, just to assess the situation. He seems stable, not a threat to himself or others. But we've noted your case for priority response if needed." After we hung up, I felt marginally better. The system was working to protect me. Preston had been warned, documented, monitored. He wasn't getting away with harassment. Tuesday evening, Naomi called with unexpected news. "Remember the Jeffersons? The family who bought your old house?" "Of course. They called me today. Wanted me to pass along a message. Apparently Preston showed up at the house this weekend. Started yelling about illegal sales and theft. The police had to come remove him." My heart sank. "Is everyone okay?" "They're fine, just shaken. They wanted you to know so you could add it to your documentation. This is evidence he's not coping well with the situation." "Did they press charges?" "Trespassing charges, yes. And they've filed for their own restraining order against him." So now Preston had 2 restraining orders. The weight of his own actions was crushing him, and somehow that was my fault in his mind. Wednesday brought a message from Catherine, my divorce lawyer. Preston's lawyer withdrew from the case. Professional disagreement, apparently. Preston is trying to represent himself now. Is that good or bad for me? Good. He doesn't know family law and will make mistakes. Bad for him, obviously. Representing yourself in a divorce is almost always a terrible idea. So what happens now? We proceed as normal. The court date is still set for the end of the 60-day waiting period. If he shows up without a lawyer, the judge will ask if he wants a continuance to find representation. If he refuses, we proceed. Either way, you'll be divorced. Thursday morning, I attended a deposition related to the restraining order. Preston had requested a full hearing to contest it, which was his right. The deposition was in a small room with Catherine, a court reporter, and a representative from the prosecutor's office. They asked me detailed questions about every interaction with Preston since I'd asked him to leave. I answered honestly, providing dates and descriptions. It was exhausting, reliving each moment of harassment and fear. "Mrs. Carter, why do you believe you need protection from your husband?" the prosecutor asked. "Because he won't accept that I've ended the relationship. He shows up at my work, my home, at property I used to own. He contacts me through different numbers after I block him. He tells people I'm mentally unstable to discredit me. These aren't the actions of someone who respects boundaries. Do you believe he would physically harm you?" I thought about that. I don't know. 2 months ago I would have said absolutely not. No. I don't know who he is anymore. The man I married wouldn't have done any of these things. So I can't predict what this version of Preston might do. The hearing for the permanent restraining order was scheduled for the following week. Until then, the temporary order remained in effect. Friday afternoon, Teresa stopped by my office with a concerned expression. "Hey, so security just gave me a heads up. Someone matching your ex-husband's description was seen in the parking garage earlier today. They checked the cameras and it was him. He didn't approach your car or anything, just drove through and left." My hands started shaking. He was escalating again. "I'm calling the police," I said, pulling out my phone. Officer Rodriguez took my call seriously. This violates the restraining order. We'll issue a warrant for his arrest. Do you feel safe going home today? I think so. My building has good security. I'm going to request a patrol car sit outside your building tonight, just as a precaution. Give you some peace of mind. Thank you. That night, I did see a police car parked across from my building entrance. Patricia at the front desk confirmed they'd been briefed on the situation. You're safe here, Mrs. Carter? I promise you that. I went upstairs, locked my door, and immediately felt the now familiar rush of anxiety. When would this end? When would Preston accept reality and move on? Rochelle came over with dinner and stayed until almost midnight, just keeping me company. We didn't talk about Preston much. Instead, we watched old movies and laughed at the absurd plot lines. This is nice, I said during a particularly ridiculous scene. Feeling normal. Normal is underrated. Everyone wants excitement until they actually have it. Saturday morning, I forced myself to go to yoga class again. The instructor remembered me from last week. Welcome back. How was your practice? Needed. Really needed. During class, as we moved through poses and focused on breathing, I felt some of the tension leave my body. The instructor's voice guided us through a meditation at the end. Let go of what you cannot control. Hold on to your own peace. You are stronger than you know. I left class feeling marginally better. Still anxious, still looking over my shoulder, but slightly more centered. That afternoon, I met Naomi for coffee at a place near my apartment. She brought a friend, a woman named Tamara who worked in pharmaceutical sales. Simone's in marketing at Riverside Pharma, Naomi told Tamara. Oh, I call on them sometimes. Small world. We talked about work, about the industry, about everything except my personal drama. It felt good to be seen as a professional, not just as a woman going through a difficult divorce. Sunday morning, I attended church with Rochelle again. Sister Dorothy found me after the service. How are you, child? Better some days than others. That's honest. I appreciate honest. She patted my hand. You're building something new. That's hard work. Be patient with yourself. That afternoon, Catherine called with news about the criminal charges against Preston for violating the restraining order. He was arrested this morning. Spent a few hours in jail before his parents bailed him out. He has a court date next week for the violation. What does that mean for me? It means the system is taking this seriously. It also means Preston now has a criminal record related to harassing you. That strengthens our position in the divorce and makes the permanent restraining order more likely. I never wanted him to have a criminal record. That's kind of you, but he chose his actions. These are his consequences. Monday morning, I was pulling into my parking spot at work when Preston's car pulled up next to mine. My heart rate spiked immediately. He rolled down his window. Simone, please. Just hear me out. I didn't roll down my window. Instead, I called 911. My ex-husband is violating a restraining order. He's in the parking garage at my workplace right now. Preston heard me and his expression changed from pleading to angry. You're calling the cops? Seriously? You're not supposed to be near me. I just want to talk. Leave. Now. Or you're going back to jail. He stared at me for a long moment, then drove away fast, tires squealing. I stayed in my car until building security arrived, then until the police showed up to take my statement. This is the third documented violation, the responding officer said. The prosecutor is going to take this very seriously. He'll likely face jail time. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt exhausted. All I wanted was to be left alone. Why was that so hard for Preston to understand? The rest of Monday was shot. I couldn't focus on work. I kept replaying the scene in the parking garage, Preston's angry face, the fear that had flooded through me. Catherine called that evening. The prosecutor wants to file additional charges against Preston. Stalking, harassment, multiple counts of violating a protective order. They're building a case. How long will this take? Weeks probably. But in the meantime, they're going to request he be held without bail. He's proven he can't follow court orders. That makes him a danger to you. Tuesday morning, I learned Preston had been arrested again and was being held pending a bail hearing. His parents were trying to convince the judge to release him, but the prosecutor was arguing strongly against it. He's violated the restraining order 3 times in 2 weeks, the prosecutor told the judge, according to Catherine who attended the hearing. He followed the victim to her workplace just yesterday. This man cannot be trusted to stay away from Mrs. Carter. The judge agreed. Preston was denied bail and would remain in custody until his trial date. I should have felt relief. Mostly I felt guilty. Was I destroying Preston's life? Was I overreacting? But then I remembered standing in my own house, being told to leave. I remembered the suitcases packed by his hands. I remembered him planning a future with another woman in my grandmother's home. No, I wasn't destroying his life. I was protecting mine. With Preston in custody, a strange peace settled over my life. The constant vigilance faded. I stopped checking over my shoulder everywhere I went. My apartment felt like a sanctuary instead of a fortress. The divorce proceedings moved forward smoothly without Preston's interference. Catherine kept me updated on every development. The court has granted a default judgment on several motions since Preston couldn't appear to contest them. The divorce will be finalized on schedule, end of January. What happens after that? You're free. Legally single. No ties to Preston except whatever criminal matters resolve from his violations. January felt like both a lifetime away and around the corner. Time moved strangely when you were rebuilding your life. I threw myself into work with renewed focus. The diabetes medication campaign was coming together beautifully. My creative team had developed concepts that were both informative and emotionally resonant. "This is really good work, Simone," my boss said during a review meeting. "Some of your best." "Thank you. I've had a lot of mental space to focus lately." She gave me a knowing look. Office gossip traveled, and people had noticed I no longer wore my wedding ring. But no one asked questions respecting my privacy. Evenings and weekends, I continued building my new life. I joined a book club that met at a local library. I started taking a watercolor painting class on Thursday nights. I explored my neighborhood, finding favorite coffee shops and restaurants. One Saturday morning, I ran into Naomi at a farmer's market. "Simone, you look happy." "I feel happy." "Is that weird?" "Not at all. It's called healing." She bought some fresh flowers and handed me a bouquet. "For your apartment. Every home needs fresh flowers." At the apartment, I arranged the flowers in a vase I'd bought specifically for this purpose. They brightened the kitchen counter, yellow and orange blooms that seemed to glow in the afternoon light. My phone rang. "Catherine, good news. The court date for your divorce has been moved up. Preston's lawyer, or rather his public defender for the criminal charges, requested an expedited hearing. The judge agreed. You could be divorced by the end of next week." "That fast?" "Preston's not contesting. He can't really. He's got bigger problems with the criminal charges. The divorce is the least of his concerns." After we hung up, I sat on my couch and processed this information. By next week I could be officially free. No longer Mrs. Preston Carter. Just Simone Michelle Carter again. The name I'd been born with, the name Grandma Rose had called me, the name that was mine alone. Sunday afternoon, Rochelle and I went to see a movie. Something light and funny, no deep meaning required. We ate popcorn and laughed at stupid jokes, and for 2 hours I was just a woman enjoying time with her friend. "You're different," Rochelle observed over dinner after the movie. "More like the person I met in college. The one who didn't apologize for existing." I forgot who that person was. Preston had a way of making me feel like I was too much and not enough at the same time. That's what insecure men do. They diminish you to feel bigger themselves. Monday morning, I woke up to an email from Catherine. "Divorce finalized. Congratulations. You're officially single as of 9 a.m. today." I read the email 3 times, waiting to feel something dramatic. Relief or sadness or anger. Instead, I just felt quiet. Like closing a book I'd been reading for too long. At work, I told Teresa the news. "Congratulations, if that's the right word." "It is. Thank you." "So what now? Big celebration? Wild night out?" I laughed. "Probably just a nice dinner with friends. I'm not much for wild nights." That evening, Rochelle, Naomi, and Tamara took me to an upscale restaurant downtown. The kind of place with cloth napkins and an extensive wine list. The kind of place Preston had always said was too expensive. To Simone, Rochelle toasted. Who proved that you don't need to stay in situations that diminish you. Who showed that sometimes the bravest thing is walking away. And selling the house without telling him, Naomi added with a grin. That was brilliant. "I'll drink to that," Tamara said. We ate good food and drank good wine and talked about everything. Our careers, our dreams, our plans for the future. Not once did we discuss Preston. He was irrelevant now, a chapter closed. Walking back to my car, I felt lighter than I had in years. The city lights reflected off the buildings, creating a sparkling landscape. Somewhere in all this, I'd found myself again. Over the next few weeks, I settled into new routines. Morning yoga 3 times a week. Book club every other Wednesday. Painting class on Thursdays. Coffee with Naomi on Saturday mornings. Church with Rochelle on Sundays. My apartment filled with things that were wholly mine. Artwork I'd painted myself, books I'd chosen without considering anyone else's opinion, furniture arranged exactly how I wanted it. I also started volunteering at a women's shelter on Saturday afternoons. Many of the women there were escaping situations far more dangerous than mine had been. But I understood the core experience of rebuilding from nothing, of reclaiming your life piece by piece. You have a gift for listening, the shelter director told me after my 4th week. The women trust you. I've been where they are. Maybe not exactly, but close enough. One evening in early February, I was painting in my living room when my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw a delivery person holding a small package. Package for Simone Carter. I signed for it and brought it inside. No return address. Just my name and apartment number. Inside was a small jewelry box. I opened it carefully, half expecting something from Preston. Instead, I found a beautiful bracelet with a note. For standing up for yourself. Love, Mom and Dad. I called my parents immediately. Did you get it? Mom asked. Just now. It's beautiful. Your father picked it out. He wanted you to have something to remind you how strong you are. Tell him thank you. Thank you both. We're proud of you, Simone. You could have stayed, tried to make it work, convinced yourself you were overreacting. But you chose yourself instead. That takes real courage. After we hung up, I put the bracelet on. It caught the light as I moved, sparkling silver and blue stones. A tangible reminder that I'd survived. Mid-February brought news that Preston had been sentenced for violating the restraining order. 60 days in county jail with credit for time served. He'd be released in March. The permanent restraining order is still in effect, Catherine assured me. For 2 years. If he violates it again after his release, the penalties will be much more severe. Do you think he'll contact me? Hard to say. Some people learn their lesson. Others double down on bad choices. She paused. But you're protected legally. And you've built a strong support system. You're not the vulnerable woman he tried to kick out of her own house anymore. She was right. I wasn't that woman anymore. I'd shed that version of myself along with the marriage and the house and the false sense of who I was supposed to be. By late February, I'd been in my apartment for 3 months. It felt fully like home now. Every corner held something I'd chosen, something I loved. The view never got old. The peace never felt less precious. I also started seeing a therapist, someone Rochelle had recommended. Her name was Dr. Williams, and she specialized in helping people recover from manipulative relationships. You did something many people can't, she told me during our 3rd session. You recognized the situation for what it was and took decisive action. That's rare. It doesn't feel rare. It feels like survival. Survival is rare. Most people endure rather than escape. You escaped and then thrived. That's exceptional. I didn't feel exceptional. I just felt like someone who'd finally learned to put herself first. March arrived with warmer weather and longer days. Spring was coming and with it, a sense of renewal. Preston was released from jail on a Tuesday. Catherine notified me immediately. He's out. The restraining order is still in effect. If he contacts you in any way, call the police immediately. I will. That night, I double-checked my locks and made sure my phone was charged. But I also reminded myself that I was safe. My building had security. The police knew my situation. I had friends who checked on me. I wasn't alone or unprotected. Preston didn't contact me. Days passed, then a week, then 2 weeks. According to Officer Rodriguez, who called to check in, Preston had moved to a different city. Started over somewhere else. It happens sometimes, Rodriguez said. People realize they can't undo what they've done, so they leave and start fresh. It's probably the best outcome for everyone. I agreed. Preston gone, starting over somewhere far away, learning from his mistakes. Or not learning, but at least doing it somewhere else. By mid-March, I'd been officially divorced for 2 months. I'd sold my grandmother's house, moved into my own apartment, found new friends, and built a life that was entirely mine. And I'd done it all without any dramatic reconciliation or last-minute realization that I'd made a mistake. The revenge had been simple, choosing myself, protecting what was mine, refusing to be manipulated or diminished. Sometimes the best revenge was just living well. Spring transformed the city into something vibrant and alive. Trees bloomed in the parks, flowers appeared in sidewalk planters, and people emerged from winter hibernation with renewed energy. I'd been divorced for 3 months now, and the novelty of my new life had settled into comfortable routine. Work was going well. The diabetes medication campaign had launched successfully, generating positive feedback from both doctors and patients. My boss hinted at a promotion in the works. Socially, I was thriving in ways I hadn't expected. The book club had become a highlight of my week. The women there were smart and funny, with opinions on everything from politics to the best coffee in the city. I'd even started hosting club meetings at my apartment occasionally. "Your place is perfect for this," one of the members, a woman named Veronica, said during a March meeting. "Great view, comfortable seating, and you actually have wine glasses instead of plastic cups." Adult life achievement unlocked, I joked. My painting class had also evolved into genuine friendships. Our instructor, Helena, was a professional artist who taught with patience and humor. After class, several of us would often go out for drinks and talk about art, life, whatever came up. "You've really improved," Helena told me one Thursday evening. "Your use of color has become much bolder. More confident." "I feel more confident," I admitted. "About everything." On a Saturday morning in late March, I met Naomi and Tamara for brunch at a place downtown that was famous for its French toast. We'd started doing this every few weeks, the three of us meeting to catch up and laugh and decompress from our work weeks. "So there's this guy at my gym," Tamara said, spreading butter on her toast. "He asked me out. Are you going to say yes?" Naomi asked. "Maybe? I don't know. Dating feels like so much work." I sipped my coffee, listening to them discuss the complexities of modern dating. I hadn't thought much about dating yet. The divorce was too fresh, my independence too new and precious. After brunch, we walked around the downtown area, window shopping and people watching. We were passing by a popular bakery when I saw him. Preston. He was standing in line inside the bakery, clearly visible through the large front windows. He looked different. Thinner, older somehow. His hair was longer than he used to keep it. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a blue sweater I didn't recognize. I stopped walking so abruptly that Tamara almost ran into me. "What's wrong?" she asked, following my gaze. "Oh, is that him?" "Yeah." Naomi stepped protectively closer. "Do you want to leave? We can go." But I didn't want to leave. I'd spent months being afraid of this moment, imagining how I'd react if I saw Preston again. Running away now would give him power over me that I'd worked hard to reclaim. "No. Let's keep walking." We passed the bakery. Through the window, I saw Preston reach the counter and order. He didn't see me. Probably wouldn't have recognized me if he had. I changed too. My hair was shorter, styled differently. I wore clothes Preston had never seen, colors he'd once said didn't suit me. I walked with my head up, my posture confident. I wasn't the woman he tried to evict from her own home. That woman didn't exist anymore. As we continued down the street, Tamara asked, "Are you okay?" "Actually, yes, I am." "You're not upset about seeing him?" I thought about it. No. I just realized he's just a person. Not a monster, not a villain, not even particularly important. Just a person who made bad choices and has to live with them. Naomi squeezed my arm. That's growth. That evening, alone in my apartment, I processed the encounter more fully. Seeing Preston hadn't devastated me. It hadn't even really bothered me. If anything, I'd felt pity. He'd looked worn down, defeated. Whatever he was doing with his life now, it clearly wasn't bringing him joy. Meanwhile, I was flourishing. My apartment was beautiful. My job was fulfilling. My friendships were genuine. I had hobbies and interests and plans for the future. I'd won. Not by destroying him or getting revenge in some dramatic way, but by building a life so good that his presence in it would only diminish it. Sunday morning, I attended church with Rochelle. Sister Dorothy found me after the service, as she often did. "You're glowing today, child. Something good happen?" "I saw my ex-husband yesterday. And I felt nothing." She laughed, a deep, joyful sound. "That's not nothing. That's everything. When you can see someone who hurt you and feel peace instead of pain, you've healed." In April, I got the promotion at work. I was now Senior Director of Marketing with a team of 5 people reporting to me and a significant pay increase. "You've earned this," my boss said during the announcement. "Your work has been exceptional, and your leadership qualities are exactly what we need as we expand." The promotion meant more responsibility but also more creative freedom. I could greenlight projects I believed in without waiting for multiple approvals. I could shape the direction of our department. It felt like everything was falling into place. One evening in mid-April, I was leaving yoga class when someone called my name. I turned to see a man approaching. He looked familiar, but I couldn't immediately place him. "Simone Carter, right? We met at that art fair a few months ago. I'm friends with Naomi." Then I remembered. He'd been part of the group we'd had drinks with that day. Tall, kind smile, worked in something related to technology. "Right, sorry. Long day." How are you? Good. Listen, I know this is random, but would you want to grab coffee sometime? I remember we had an interesting conversation about art and marketing that day, and I'd like to continue it. My first instinct was to say no. Dating wasn't on my agenda. But then I looked at him, really looked. He had kind eyes. An open, honest expression. And he wasn't asking for marriage, just coffee and conversation. Sure. Coffee sounds nice. We exchanged numbers. His name was Julian. He texted me the next day with a few time options, respectful of my schedule. We agreed to meet Saturday morning at a coffee shop near my apartment. A date? Rochelle asked when I told her. That's big. It's just coffee. Not a date. It's a date, but a casual one. Nothing wrong with that. Saturday arrived. I changed outfits 3 times before forcing myself to stop. Finally settling on jeans and a green blouse, casual but put together. I reminded myself this wasn't a test or a commitment. Just 2 people having coffee. Julian was already there when I arrived, reading something on his phone. He looked up when I approached and smiled genuinely. Simone, thanks for coming. We ordered our drinks and found a table by the window. The conversation flowed easily. He asked about my work and I asked about his. He was a software developer working on educational apps for kids. It's rewarding, he said. Knowing the code I write might help a child learn to read or understand math. Makes the long hours worth it. We talked for 2 hours. About work, about the city, about books and movies and the best places to find good tacos. He didn't ask about my past or why I was single. He was interested in who I was now, in this moment. This was really nice, he said as we prepared to leave. Can we do it again sometime? I'd like that. We had coffee again the following Saturday. Then dinner the Saturday after that. Nothing rushed, nothing pressured. Just gradually getting to know each other. Julian was different from Preston in fundamental ways. He listened when I talked instead of waiting for his turn to speak. He asked my opinion on things and actually considered it. He never made me feel small or stupid or wrong. What happened with your marriage? He asked during our 4th date. If you don't mind sharing. I'd been expecting this question. Preparing for it, actually. He had an affair and wanted me to move out of my house so he could move her in. I sold the house instead. Julian's eyebrows rose. That's pretty dramatic. It felt necessary at the time. And I don't regret it. I wasn't suggesting you should. Actually, I think it's kind of perfect. He tried to take something from you, so you made sure he got nothing. Exactly. He reached across the table and took my hand. For what it's worth, he sounds like an idiot. Anyone who would treat you like that doesn't deserve you. I appreciated the sentiment, but I also knew it was more complicated than that. Preston wasn't an idiot. He just made selfish choices and faced consequences he hadn't anticipated. But explaining that felt unnecessary. By May, Julian and I were seeing each other regularly. It wasn't officially a relationship yet, just 2 people enjoying each other's company. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give, which made me trust him more. Take your time, he said when I explained I wasn't ready for anything serious yet. I'm not going anywhere. One Saturday afternoon, Julian came over to my apartment for the first time. I'd been nervous about this, having someone new in my space. But when he arrived, it felt natural. This place is great, he said, looking around. The view is incredible. It was the main selling point. That and being somewhere Preston had never been. We cooked dinner together, working side by side in my kitchen. He made a salad while I prepared salmon. We moved around each other easily, no awkwardness or tension. After dinner, we sat on my couch and talked until late. About our childhoods, our families, our dreams for the future. He told me about a sister who struggled with addiction, and how helpless that made him feel. I told him about my grandmother, about how she'd been the one constant in my often chaotic childhood. She sounds amazing, Julian said. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you. She always said you could tell a person's character by how they treated people who couldn't do anything for them. And how do I treat people? With respect. Kindness. You see people as people, not as means to an end. He kissed me then, gentle and unhurried. It was my first kiss since Preston, and it felt both foreign and right. When we pulled apart, he searched my face. Was that okay? More than okay. He left around midnight and I lay in bed replaying the evening. Julian wasn't perfect. He had his flaws and complexities like anyone. But he was honest and kind and made me feel valued. That was more than enough. As May turned into June, my life had taken a shape I never could have predicted 6 months ago. I had a career I loved, an apartment that was truly home, friends who supported me, and the beginning of something that might become a real relationship. Most importantly, I had myself back. The version of me who made decisions without second-guessing, who knew her worth, who refused to settle for less than she deserved. Preston had tried to diminish me, to make me small enough to fit his needs. Instead, I'd grown larger than the space he tried to confine me to. And in doing so, I discovered that revenge wasn't about hurting the person who hurt you. It was about building a life so good that their absence from it was the best thing that ever happened to you. June brought warm weather and longer days. I'd been divorced for nearly 6 months, and life had settled into something I never expected: contentment. Real, genuine contentment that didn't depend on anyone else's approval or presence. The anniversary of selling the house was approaching. A full year since I'd walked into that title company and signed away my grandmother's property. At the time, it had felt like the end of something. Now I understood it had been the beginning. Work continued to thrive. My team had successfully launched 3 major campaigns, and the company was seeing record engagement with our marketing materials. During a quarterly review, the CEO specifically mentioned my department's contributions. "Simone's leadership has transformed our marketing approach," he said to the assembled executives. "We're seeing results we haven't seen in years." After the meeting, my boss pulled me aside. "There's talk of creating a VP of marketing position. You'd be the natural choice." "Really? Really? Keep doing what you're doing." That evening, I celebrated with Rochelle, Naomi, and Tamara at our usual spot. We'd made this restaurant our unofficial headquarters, meeting here at least twice a month. "VP of marketing," Rochelle said, raising her wine glass. "Look at you climbing the corporate ladder." "It's not official yet." "It will be. You've earned it 10 times over." Naomi nodded. "Remember when we first met? You were this scared woman trying to figure out how to sell a house. Now look at you. Confident, successful, happy." "I was never scared," I protested mildly. "You were terrified," Rochelle corrected. "But you did it anyway. That's what courage looks like." Tamara, who'd become a close friend over the past months, added, "And now you're dating someone who actually deserves you. When do we get to meet this Julian properly?" "Soon. He's nervous about meeting my friends. Says you all sound intimidating." "We are intimidating," Naomi said with a grin. "That's the point." The next Saturday, I hosted a small dinner party at my apartment. Julian, Rochelle, Naomi, Tamara, and Helena from my painting class. 6 people gathered in my living room eating food I'd prepared myself, laughing and talking and existing together. This, I realized, was what home felt like. Not a building or a location, but the people you chose to surround yourself with. Julian fit into the group naturally. He asked Helena about her art, discussed real estate trends with Naomi, and debated politics with Rochelle. He was comfortable being himself, which made everyone else comfortable too. After everyone left, Julian helped me clean up the kitchen. "Your friends are great," he said, loading the dishwasher. "I can see why you love them. They saved me in a lot of ways. When everything fell apart, they were there. That's what good friends do." He dried his hands and turned to face me. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I'm falling for you. I know we said we'd take things slow, and I'm fine continuing at whatever pace you need. But I wanted you to know how I feel. My heart did something complicated. Fear and joy and hope all mixed together. I'm falling for you too. That terrifies me." "Why?" "Because I trusted Preston and look how that ended. What if I'm making the same mistake?" Julian was quiet for a moment. "You're not making the same mistake. Preston tried to control you, to make you smaller. I just want to be with you as you are. Big, ambitious, independent, all of it. Promise?" "Promise." We kissed, and this time it felt different. Deeper. Like a commitment being made even though neither of us said the words. July brought the actual anniversary of selling the house. 1 year ago, I'd sat in a conference room and signed away my grandmother's property. It had felt monumental then, like the sky was falling. Now it just felt like something I'd done. A decision made, consequences faced, life moved forward. I drove by the old neighborhood one Saturday afternoon, curious to see how the Jeffersons were doing. The house looked different. They'd painted the shutters a brighter color and added a swing set in the backyard. Children's toys were scattered across the lawn, evidence of life and laughter. I felt no regret, no sense of loss. Just satisfaction that the house was being loved and used properly. My phone rang as I was driving away. "Rochelle. Hey, you'll want to hear this. Remember how Preston moved away?" "Yeah. He's engaged. Getting married in September." I pulled over to process this information. Preston was engaged. Moving on. Building a new life with someone else. How do you feel about that? Rochelle asked. Honestly, I feel nothing. Good for him, I guess. I hope it works out better this time. That's very mature of you. I'm not trying to be mature. I just genuinely don't care. He's not part of my life anymore. What he does doesn't affect me. And it was true. Preston getting married didn't hurt or anger me. It was just information, neutral and meaningless. August brought the official job offer. VP of Marketing, substantial pay increase, corner office, full creative control. Everything I'd worked for. You've earned this, my new supervisor said when I accepted. We're excited to see what you do with this role. That evening, Julian took me to dinner to celebrate. A fancy restaurant with white tablecloths and a view of the river. Over dessert, he said something that surprised me. I've been thinking about the future. Where I want to be in 5 years, 10 years. And I see you there. Not because I need you to be happy, but because I want you there. There's a difference. There is. So I'm not asking you to move in or get married or make any big decisions. I'm just saying I'm invested. In you, in this, in building something together that respects both of our independence. I reached across the table and took his hand. I'm invested too. Let's see where this goes. September arrived with cooler weather and the start of fall. I'd been in my apartment for a year now. The lease was up for renewal and I had to decide whether to stay or move. I chose to stay. This place had become home in ways that transcended the physical space. It represented freedom and independence and the courage to choose myself. The week I renewed my lease, I got a message from an unknown number. Simone, this is Preston. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I wanted to apologize. For everything. I was selfish and cruel and you deserved better. I hope you're doing well. I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to respond, to accept the apology, to close that chapter cleanly. But I realized I didn't need his apology to move on. I'd already moved on. I deleted the message without responding. Some things were better left in the past. October brought a celebration I'd been planning for months. The 1-year anniversary of my divorce. Rochelle, Naomi, Tamara, Helena, and Julian all gathered at my apartment for what I called my freedom party. This is the best reason for a party I've ever heard, Helena said, examining the cake I'd ordered. It was decorated with the words, 1 year free, in green frosting. We ate cake and drank champagne and talked about how much life had changed in 12 months. I showed them photos from a year ago when I'd first moved into the apartment. The space had been empty then, bare walls and minimal furniture. Now it was full of life and color and personality. You've built something beautiful, Rochelle said, looking around. Not just the apartment. Your whole life. She was right. I'd built something beautiful from the wreckage of my marriage. A career that fulfilled me. Friendships that sustained me. A romantic relationship that respected me. Most importantly, a relationship with myself that was healthy and strong. As the party wound down and people started leaving, Julian pulled me aside. I have something for you, he said, handing me a small wrapped box. Inside was a necklace. Simple silver chain with a small pendant shaped like a house. I know the house you sold was important, he explained. Part of your history. I thought you might like something to remember that it wasn't just a house you lost. It was a burden you released. I put the necklace on immediately. It's perfect. Thank you. After everyone left, I stood at my living room window and looked out at the city. 1 year ago, I'd been terrified and angry and uncertain. Now I was strong and confident and hopeful. The journey hadn't been easy. There were still days when I wondered if I'd done the right thing. Days when I second-guessed my decisions. Days when the loneliness felt heavy. But those days were rare now. Most days I felt grateful. Grateful for the courage to leave. Grateful for friends who supported me. Grateful for the opportunity to rebuild from nothing. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Your father and I are so proud of you, Simone. You took a terrible situation and turned it into something beautiful. That's real strength. I texted back a heart emoji, unable to find words that encompassed everything I felt. That night, as I got ready for bed, I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. Really looked. The woman staring back was different from the one who'd stood in her grandmother's house a year ago, surrounded by packed suitcases and broken promises. This woman knew her worth. This woman didn't need anyone's permission to take up space. This woman had learned that sometimes the best revenge was simply refusing to shrink. I touched the house pendant at my throat and smiled. Grandma Rose had left me more than a building. She'd left me the foundation to build my own life on my own terms. It had just taken me a while to understand that. Tomorrow I'd wake up in my apartment, go to my job, see my friends, maybe have dinner with Julian. Normal things that felt like privileges because I'd fought to have them. Preston had said, "It's time you moved out," thinking he was ending my story. Instead, he'd given me the push I needed to start writing a new one. A better one. A story where I was the heroine, not the victim. And that, I realized, was the sweetest victory of all.